I'm Steve Cook. I'm the superintendent of Haslett Public Schools.
So, Mr. Cook, what's the reopening plan as of right now for the fall?
Well, we don't have a plan. Well, we have, basically, we're looking at three options. Some form of face-to-face in-person instruction, whether that's Monday through Friday, or a hybrid method, depending upon the amount of students that want to come back. So as you may or may not know, we're in phase 4 of the governor's reopen roadmap return plan, and part of phase 4's requirements is that you meet certain requirements, and one of them is obviously social distancing. So depending upon how many students want to come back, or families want to send their students back, we have to meet the safety requirements that are laid out in that. So depending upon what the numbers look like, that would be either in a Monday through Friday format, or some type of hybrid, what would be a split schedule. So students wouldn't come in every day. We would split whoever wants to come back into cohorts, and form instruction in addition to a virtual piece with that. The other option is 100% virtual, whereby a student would choose that they wanted to do their instruction through Haslett Public Schools 100% virtually through an online platform that we would put together, taught by our teachers at Haslett Schools. So those really are, it's really three options, but it's really two, because the in-person option will be dependent upon survey data that we've sent out to our parents, trying to get an indication of where families are at, whether that's coming back or going online.
So do families have a choice between, let's say that the school does reopen and you guys are able to do a hybrid or in person. Do families have a choice whether they want to also do online instead and stay quarantined, or does everyone?
Correct. Nope. They have an option. We want to offer families choice. And if we do an in-person option, the likelihood that there's also going to be an online component of that too will be the case. So really what we're trying to do is create an online platform curriculum such that whether you're in school or you're not in school, you're following the same pattern through an online platform.
When is the latest date that this will be decided?
So we have a board meeting scheduled for this Monday, and that's when our board is going to make a decision on how we move forward.
And what's it looking like? Does it?
Well,
what's it like right now?
There's a lot of questions I believe that the board members want to have answered before they make a decision. So we're going to present those options and what those look like to our board. They're going to ask questions, and then hopefully they'll make a decision. So I don't really have answers to that until after the meeting, because things can change. As you know, things are changing every day in our state. So we'll know more Monday night.
So let's say that Haslett does reopen. So what's the protocol if a student does test positive with COVID-19?
So we're required to immediately contact the Ingham County Health Department. And so they basically are the legal authority in terms of how we proceed with that, in terms of whether, they're going to do all of the work in terms of, making sure who the tracing piece, and they will give us guidance based upon how that came about, how they were positive, whether we have to quarantine a classroom, a building, the whole district, whatever that looks like. That's really dependent on how the Ingham County Health Department wants us to handle that.
So what
and they haven't really give us scenarios. They just say when it happens, we'll give you guidance at that point. So.
Gotcha. So what extra safety measures are being implemented in schools right now?
As I mentioned, we're in phase 4. So the governor in her reopen plan has laid out guidelines in 3 categories: 1 that's required, 2 that's highly recommended, and 3 that's recommended. And as you move further along those phases, phase 5 or phase 6, those either become required, the same thing. So they just kind of move down the line in terms of importance. So right now, under the plan, phase 4, masks are the only things that are required. So we would be requiring all students and staff to wear masks, facial coverings while they're in school. In addition to that, although it's not required, social distancing is part of that highly recommended. So that's one of the reasons we would look at a hybrid format, is so we would have less students in the buildings. So we're going to have social distancing within the classrooms, within any activity that happens in the building. We're going to try to limit movement for students in terms of classes and being in the hallway and lunchtime, recess, all of those things, so that there's not as many students in contact with each other, and that we have social distancing as a part of that. So that's a piece of it. We're also not going to allow any visitors into our building. So basically it's just staff and students, unless there's some extenuating circumstances where someone has to be in the building. All of our offices right now have secured vestibules into our office. So everybody has to come through the office. So it's not like people can just walk into our buildings right now. So they're all secured from the entrances.
So how will masks be enforced? Like, these are children ages 5 to 18. So how is that going to be enforced that they need to be wearing these masks?
Well, the good news is that we believe that because this has been going on, obviously, for quite a period of time, that most families are used to wearing masks. They are now required by the governor anytime you go out, whether you're in a public or private, indoor or outdoor. Michigan State's also doing the same thing with their student. It's coming back. So, we're just going to do the best we can to enforce it. Obviously, we don't have enough staff to be everywhere, but we're going to make that an expectation. And I think, most of our students get it. We have expectations just like we do behavior, other types of things. This will just be another piece to that whole positive supports in our buildings.
So how do you go about social distancing? Can you elaborate that a little more in those small classrooms and everything and hallways? What's the protocol for that?
So because right now our classes are anywhere between 25 and 30. So we'll probably have at least half of that. So we've looked at the dimensions of all the rooms, we've looked at the furnitures, and we basically have a layout by classroom where we're able to achieve a 6-foot distancing for every student in those classrooms.
So if need be, is Haslett ready for a whole entire semester online?
Absolutely.
So what
Absolutely.
platforms are you using?
Well, all our curriculum is going to be, at least at this point, is going to be our curriculum and our standards, and it's going to be delivered through Google Classrooms and Seesaw. Those are the two platforms where they're basically the management systems for the data, all of the assignments, all of that. We also use Skyward management system, which is our grading and attendance system. We'll be using that. We're hoping to have both synchronous and asynchronous learning, which is, face-to-face, some type of live instruction, or recorded, or some type of variation of that. So we're trying to get as much of an in-person experience as you can in an online format, but that'll be dependent upon how much of that technology we can actually use to deliver that form of instruction.
Would you say that the online learning is about the same exact quality as the in-person?
Well, the research says, that, nothing can really replace in-person instruction, but I believe that we're going to do the best job to make it as close as possible as we can to a face-to-face experience. It just depends on the learner too, because some students are better at navigating technology. They're better at working on their own pace and those types of things. And so some of that is really dependent upon the student. We can have a student that can learn just as well in person as they could online because they're motivated to be able to do that. Other students may not have that luxury. And so, especially at the younger ages, there's going to have to be some component of supervision at home in terms of delivering some of those pieces. So, that's dependent upon what resources are available at the home and what parents are able to assist in delivering that instruction through an online platform.
Does every student have access to this technology?
Yeah, so part of our plan is one-to-one. So we're going to be giving a device to every single one of our students. So every one of our students will have a learning device, electronic device, to receive that instruction. The one challenge is internet access. And so we are taking a survey to find out what families don't have adequate internet, and we're doing what we can to make sure that we can provide them some type of internet access for instruction online.
So what are some of the major concerns people have been presenting to you, and how do you really answer those questions in this time of uncertainty?
So the biggest, obviously, if you're coming back, if we are coming back, safety is the biggest piece. making sure that kids and our staff are safe. And so we're basically just explaining what those protocols are and, what we're doing to keep people safe. Those who are going 100% virtual, the big question is, what is that instruction going to look like? What is the curriculum? How close to that is what that would be for a face-to-face piece? As you know, we were forced to go online in the spring in a very, very short period of time. And so we put together as good of a plan as we could at that point, but we just didn't have enough time to prepare for that. So parents are concerned that it will be a rigorous and challenging curriculum. And so that's really one of the biggest questions is if I go online 100%, what does that look like, not only in the curriculum, but in the time commitment for my student, and what are the expectations in terms of content and all of the pieces associated with that.
How is Haslett looking about reinstating sports or extracurricular activities?
Well, right now, sports is really dictated by Michigan High School Athletic Association. And so we're just basically following their guidelines. We have done some form of workouts, and we're following all the guidelines that are outlined by MSHA in terms of that. Extracurriculars, we're not really doing a whole lot. Obviously, it's the summer, so camps and things like that have been limited for the summer. If we come back to school in some format, most of those things are going to be limited, or they won't happen because we can't practice all the safety protocols. Field trips and things like that probably won't happen.
So if someone from the Haslett community wants to get involved and maybe express to you their concerns, what's the best way to get in touch with you and the school board?
Well, email is usually the easiest. We're right at the end stages of all of our committee work to put all these plans together. So we did get members from our community, parents, being involved in helping us put together these plans and making the decisions. So, and we've already had quite a few parents that have asked questions in terms of what it's going to look like, and those questions that I proposed to you earlier.
All right, well, those are all the questions I have. Do you have anything else you would personally like to add?
No, I would just, it's a very difficult times. We're doing the best that we can to try to continue instruction for our community. And so hopefully we'll have a good plan, and parents will feel very comfortable with whatever option they choose in the fall.